Eli James Carter, an 18-year-old senior at Riverside Heights High School, left his home in the Maplewood Grove neighborhood at approximately 7:30 p.m. He informed his mother, Martha Delaney, that he was going out with his best friend, Jake Morrison, a routine activity for the teenagers who had been friends since middle school. Eli, known for his punctuality and responsibility, had a strict midnight curfew. By 11:45 p.m., when Martha hadn't heard from her son, she began sending text messages. In their residential neighborhood, Eli typically responded within minutes. However, that night, her messages remained unread, and calls went straight to voicemail. At 12:30 a.m., Martha contacted Jake Morrison. His explanation was inconsistent and raised immediate concerns. According to Jake, they had gone to Silverleaf Park, where Eli had left his iPhone in Jake's Toyota Camry while using the public restroom. Jake claimed Eli then walked away without his phone, behavior completely out of character for someone who maintained constant communication with his mother. Using the Find My iPhone application, Martha tracked Eli's phone. The location data showed movement from their neighborhood, past their house, and ultimately stopping at Jake's residence at 1:15 a.m. Martha drove to the location. Jake's dark blue Toyota Camry was parked in the driveway, but despite repeated knocking, no one answered the door of the darkened house. At 1:45 a.m., Martha contacted the Springfield Police Department. Officer Ramirez filed the missing person report, noting Eli's description: 5 feet 11 inches, 165 pounds, wearing a gray Nike hoodie, black jeans, and white Air Force One sneakers. The Springfield Police Department initiated a search operation, focusing on Silverleaf Park and the surrounding areas. Over the next 3 days, the Missing Persons Unit, assisted by local volunteers, conducted extensive searches. Local news channels covered the disappearance, and community members distributed flyers throughout the Maplewood Grove and Silverleaf Park neighborhoods. On September 13, 2020, at approximately 8:45 a.m., a park maintenance worker discovered Eli's body in the eastern section of Silverleaf Park's lower lake. The Greenfield County Medical Examiner's Office initially classified the death as an accidental drowning, citing no signs of external trauma. However, the police investigation would later reveal that the circumstances surrounding Eli Carter's death were far more sinister than they initially appeared. The truth would eventually emerge through a thorough investigation that uncovered a web of deception, revealing that what appeared to be a tragic accident was, in fact, a carefully concealed crime. The death of Eli Carter would ultimately expose how a chance encounter through social media led to fatal consequences, forever changing multiple lives in this tight-knit Springfield community. The case would reveal a complex network of relationships and deception that had been hidden beneath the surface of what initially appeared to be a straightforward drowning. As investigators delved deeper into the case, they discovered that several people had knowledge of the events leading up to Eli's death, yet chose to remain silent. The investigation would eventually uncover the real circumstances of that September night, leading to arrests and convictions that would bring closure to Eli's family and the community. During the initial investigation, detectives interviewed Eli's classmates and friends, revealing that he was well-liked and had no known enemies. He was an active member of the school's debate team and worked part-time at a local grocery store. His supervisor described him as reliable and hardworking, noting that he had never missed a shift without proper notification. The subsequent investigation would reveal that multiple witnesses had crucial information about the events of that night, but fear and loyalty had initially kept them from coming forward. As the truth began to emerge, it became clear that what happened at Silverleaf Park involved more than just a chance meeting or an accidental drowning. The case would eventually uncover a series of text messages, phone calls, and social media interactions that painted a different picture of the events leading up to Eli's death. These digital breadcrumbs would prove crucial in understanding the true nature of what occurred that September night, leading investigators to question the initial ruling of accidental drowning and dig deeper into the circumstances surrounding Eli's final hours. The medical examiner's initial ruling of accidental drowning quickly faced scrutiny as more details emerged about Eli Carter's death. Having grown up near Lakewood Lake, Eli was an accomplished swimmer who had taken lessons since age 4. He regularly participated in swimming activities at the local recreation center, and even worked as a junior lifeguard during previous summers. The suggestion that he would accidentally drown in Silverleaf Park's lake, which had an average depth of just 6 feet, seemed implausible to those who knew him. The detailed autopsy report conducted by the Greenfield County Medical Examiner's Office revealed several inconsistencies. While no obvious signs of trauma were present on Eli's body, the medical examiner noted unusual bruising patterns on his shoulders and upper arms that could indicate restraint. The toxicology screening came back negative for drugs and alcohol, eliminating the possibility that impairment contributed to his death. Jake Morrison's *** accounts of that night became increasingly contradictory during subsequent police interviews. In his initial statement to responding officers, he claimed Eli had become upset over a text message and walked away from the car. During a follow-up interview 2 days later, his story changed, now claiming Eli had mentioned needing time alone to think. When questioned again after the body was discovered, Jake introduced new details about Eli receiving a phone call that agitated him. The behavior of Jake's family following the incident raised additional red flags. Despite their son's close friendship with Eli, having spent countless hours in each other's homes over the years, they maintained complete silence after his death. They declined to attend the funeral, ignored Martha's attempts to contact them, and soon after enrolled Jake in a different school. As news of Eli's death spread through the community, witnesses began coming forward with information that contradicted the official narrative. Multiple park visitors reported seeing a group of at least 4 people near the lake around the time Eli supposedly went missing. Not just Eli and Jake, as initially claimed. A student from Riverside Heights High School informed police about overhearing a concerning conversation in the school bathroom between Jake and another male student, where phrases like, "things got out of hand," and "never meant for this to happen" were exchanged. The investigation took another turn when park maintenance workers discovered Eli's wallet hidden beneath a park bench nearly 30 feet from where his body was found. The wallet contained all of his identification and cash, contradicting the theory that robbery might have been a motive. More significantly, the location of the wallet suggested that Eli's movements that night differed from what Jake had described. Despite mounting evidence suggesting foul play, local law enforcement initially resisted reopening the case. They cited the medical examiner's ruling and lack of definitive proof of criminal activity. This resistance only strengthened Martha's determination to uncover the truth about her son's death. Springfield community members began organizing their own investigation efforts, creating a social media campaign to gather information and pressing local officials for answers. Several witnesses who had initially been hesitant to speak with police began sharing their accounts with Martha directly, providing crucial details about the night's events. The turning point came when a security guard from a nearby building came forward with information about unusual activity he had observed that night. His testimony would later prove instrumental in understanding the true sequence of events leading to Eli's death. Additionally, several of Eli's classmates began revealing information about tensions that had been building between certain students in the weeks before his death. As pressure mounted and new evidence emerged, it became increasingly clear that the original investigation had overlooked crucial details. The case would eventually be reopened, leading investigators down a path that would reveal a complex web of relationships and motivations behind Eli's death. The investigation into Eli Carter's death took a crucial turn when Martha began examining her son's digital communications. Working with a private investigator, she obtained detailed phone records and data from Eli's mobile devices, revealing significant discrepancies in the timeline of events. The phone records showed continuous activity until 11:45 p.m. on September 10th, contradicting Jake's claim that Eli had abandoned his phone earlier in the evening. GPS data from the device traced a path from Silverleaf Park toward Jake's residence, suggesting the phone remained in Jake's vehicle rather than being left behind as initially claimed. A breakthrough came from Eli's Telegram messages. The private investigator recovered a conversation with an unidentified user who had since deleted their account. The exchange, occurring between 6:15 p.m. and 7:20 p.m. on the evening of Eli's disappearance, revealed plans for a meeting at Silverleaf Park. The messages were notably different from Eli's typical communication style, showing an unusual level of secrecy and urgency. The final message in the conversation, sent at 7:20 p.m., simply stated, Meet at 9. Same spot. This timing aligned perfectly with Eli's departure from home, suggesting the lake meeting was premeditated rather than spontaneous, as Jake had claimed. Further analysis of Eli's social media accounts revealed subtle changes in his relationship with Jake in the weeks leading up to his death. The usual frequent interactions had decreased significantly, and several mutual friends noted tension between them during school hours. Screenshots from group chats showed Jake becoming increasingly confrontational with Eli over seemingly minor issues. Marcus Thompson ***, a former classmate, provided crucial testimony about Jake's behavior following Eli's disappearance. Thompson described witnessing Jake in visible distress during school hours, constantly checking his phone and appearing agitated. During a particularly telling moment in the school cafeteria, Thompson overheard Jake muttering to himself about things having gone too far and wondering if they would find out. Additional digital evidence emerged from Eli's cloud storage, containing several screenshots of text messages between himself and another contact saved only as NB. These messages, dating back several weeks before his death, suggested a developing relationship that Eli had kept hidden from most people in his life. The investigation also uncovered unusual activity on Jake's social media accounts immediately following Eli's disappearance. He had deleted numerous photos featuring himself and Eli together and systematically removed comments from their shared history. This digital cleanup occurred between midnight and 2 a.m. On September 11th, during the crucial hours when Eli was first reported missing. Several students from Riverside Heights High School came forward with screenshots of deleted social media posts showing Jake's increasingly erratic online behavior in the days leading up to and following Eli's death. These posts, while cryptic, hinted at underlying conflicts and suggested Jake's knowledge of events beyond what he had told police. Despite mounting digital evidence suggesting premeditation and deception, law enforcement initially maintained their position that the death was accidental. They argued that digital communications alone, without corresponding physical evidence, were insufficient to warrant reopening the case. The digital trail, however, would prove crucial in establishing a timeline of events and relationships that would eventually lead investigators to the truth about what happened at Silverleaf Park. The recovered messages, location data, and social media activities painted a picture of complex interpersonal dynamics and hidden relationships that would ultimately reveal the true circumstances of Eli's death. The death of Eli Carter created deepening divisions within the Springfield community as evidence continued to mount suggesting foul play. The case attracted increasing attention from local media, with residents taking sides between those who supported Martha's quest for truth and those who preferred to accept the official ruling of accidental drowning. Jake Morrison's *** behavior following the incident drew particular scrutiny. He withdrew from all school activities, including the debate team, where he and Eli had been partners. His social media presence vanished completely, not just deactivated but thoroughly deleted. When approached by local reporters, the Morrison family issued a brief statement through their attorney, maintaining Jake's innocence and requesting privacy during what they termed this difficult time. Several students from Riverside Heights High School began sharing previously undisclosed observations. A member of the school's basketball team reported seeing Jake in an intense argument with an unknown woman in the school parking lot 2 days before Eli's death. Another student described witnessing Jake making a series of agitated phone calls during lunch periods, speaking in hushed tones and constantly checking his surroundings. The investigation took a significant turn when Sophia Alvarez, an evening shift worker at a convenience store near Silverleaf Park, came forward with new information. She recalled seeing not just 2 teenagers that night, but a parked car containing at least one other person. Her description of the vehicle, a dark-colored sedan with a distinctive scratch along the passenger side, would later prove crucial to the investigation. Community members organized vigils and protests, demanding a deeper investigation. During one such gathering, a former neighbor of the Morrisons shared an account of unusual activity at their house on the night of September 10th. She described seeing multiple cars arriving and departing between midnight and 2 a.m., with people speaking in urgent, hushed voices. Martha's persistent advocacy began generating results. Her appearances on local news programs, where she methodically presented the inconsistencies in the official narrative, resonated with viewers. She highlighted the suspicious timing of phone activities, the contradictions in Jake's various statements, and the inexplicable behavior of those who should have been most affected by Eli's death. The pressure intensified when several of Eli's classmates began sharing screenshots of deleted social media posts that suggested a complex web of relationships and tensions leading up to his death. These posts hinted at rivalry, jealousy, and hidden connections that had not been previously investigated. A breakthrough emerged when an anonymous source contacted Martha with information about a possible romantic entanglement involving Eli. This individual claimed to have knowledge of messages exchanged between Eli and an older woman, suggesting a relationship that had been carefully concealed from friends and family. The Springfield Police Department faced mounting criticism for their handling of the case. Internal Affairs launched a review of the initial investigation, focusing particularly on why certain witness statements had been overlooked and why digital evidence had not been more thoroughly examined. As pressure built, cracks began appearing in the wall of silence surrounding the case. Several individuals who had initially refused to speak with investigators started reaching out to Martha privately, each providing small pieces of information that would eventually help reconstruct the events of that fatal night. The turning point came when a student who had initially remained silent approached Martha with crucial information about a relationship that had developed between Eli and an older woman he had met online. This revelation would ultimately lead investigators to re-examine the case from an entirely new perspective, uncovering a pattern of deception and manipulation that had previously gone unnoticed. The community's persistent demand for answers, combined with new witness statements and digital evidence, would eventually force authorities to acknowledge that Eli Carter's death warranted a deeper investigation. The truth about what happened that September night would prove far more complex than anyone had initially imagined. 6 months after Eli Carter's death, the investigation experienced a pivotal breakthrough when Michael Sanderson, a senior at Riverside Heights High School, approached the Springfield Police Department with crucial information. Burdened by guilt, Sanderson revealed that on September 10th, hours before his disappearance, Eli had confided about plans to meet an older woman named Lila Harper at Silverleaf Park that evening. This new information prompted investigators to bring Jake Morrison in for another round of questioning. After hours of interrogation, confronted with mounting evidence and witness statements, Jake's carefully constructed narrative finally crumbled. He provided a full confession, revealing the tragic sequence of events that led to Eli's death. According to Jake's statement, he had agreed to drive Eli to Silverleaf Park for what he believed would be a brief meeting. Eli had been messaging Lila Harper, a 30-year-old married woman, for several weeks after connecting through a dating application. Their relationship had quickly intensified, with the two exchanging messages daily and meeting secretly several times. Upon arriving at the park that night, Eli spotted Lila waiting near the lake. As he approached her, Derek Harper, her husband, emerged unexpectedly from behind nearby trees. Derek had grown suspicious of his wife's behavior and followed her to the park. Upon seeing Eli kiss his wife, Derek flew into a violent rage. The confrontation escalated rapidly. Derek, a former college athlete, overpowered Eli and dragged him toward the water. Despite Eli's attempts to break free, Derek forced him under the surface, holding him down until he stopped moving. Jake, paralyzed by fear and shock, witnessed the entire incident before leaving the scene. Derek threatened Jake with similar consequences if he ever spoke about what he had witnessed. Following Jake's confession, investigators obtained a court order to access Eli's dating app accounts. Their examination revealed extensive communications between Eli and Lila Harper, including arrangements for their fatal meeting at the park. The messages painted a picture of a relationship that had developed rapidly over several weeks, with Lila often initiating contact and suggesting meeting locations. The police investigation quickly identified Lila Harper through database searches and social media analysis. Both she and Derek Harper were located at their residence, where they were arrested without resistance. During subsequent interrogations, Lila admitted to the relationship with Eli but claimed no knowledge of her husband's violent intentions. A search of the Harpers' residence yielded additional evidence, including deleted messages on Lila's devices that showed she had been aware of her husband's suspicions but continued the relationship with Eli regardless. The investigation also revealed that Derek had a history of domestic incidents, though none had resulted in formal charges. Further examination of surveillance footage from businesses near Silverleaf Park confirmed parts of Jake's account, showing multiple vehicles arriving and departing around the time of the incident. This evidence corroborated the timeline of events described in Jake's confession. The district attorney's office moved swiftly with charges. Derek Harper was charged with second-degree murder, facing a potential sentence of 25 years to life. Lila Harper was charged with obstruction of justice and being an accessory after the fact, as evidence showed she had helped conceal information about the crime. Jake Morrison, in exchange for his cooperation and testimony, received immunity from prosecution. His confession proved instrumental in breaking the case, providing investigators with the crucial details needed to bring charges against the Harpers. The revelation of these details sent shockwaves through the Springfield community, particularly at Riverside Heights High School, where students and faculty struggled to process the tragic circumstances of Eli's death. The trial of Derek and Lila Harper began in spring 2021, drawing significant media coverage throughout the state. The case garnered particular attention due to its tragic elements. An 18-year-old high school student's relationship with a married woman, a husband's violent reaction, and the months of deception that followed. District Attorney Emily Carter *** presented a methodical case against the Harpers. The prosecution's key witness, Jake Morrison, provided compelling testimony about the events of September 10, 2020. His account detailed watching helplessly as Derek Harper dragged Eli into the lake and held him underwater. The jury remained visibly affected as Jake described Eli's final moments and the threats that kept him silent for months. Forensic evidence strengthened the prosecution's case. Analysis of lake bed sediment matched disturbance patterns with Jake's description of the struggle. The medical examiner revised the initial drowning ruling, noting signs of forced submersion and defensive wounds that had been previously overlooked. Digital evidence proved crucial in establishing premeditation. Investigators presented hundreds of messages between Eli and Lila, revealing their developing relationship. Additional evidence showed Derek had installed tracking software on Lila's phone weeks before the murder, suggesting he had planned to confront them. Lila Harper's ** testimony against her husband provided another dramatic turn in the trial. She admitted to pursuing a relationship with Eli despite knowing it was inappropriate. However, she maintained ignorance of Derek's violent intentions, claiming she never imagined he would resort to murder. Her testimony revealed patterns of controlling behavior in their marriage, though prosecutors demonstrated she had actively participated in concealing evidence after Eli's death. Derek Harper's ** defense team attempted to portray the killing as an unplanned crime of passion. They argued that discovering his wife's infidelity with a teenager had triggered an extreme emotional response. However, evidence of Derek following Lila to the park and lying in wait undermined this defense. After 2 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for just 6 hours before returning their verdict. Derek Harper was found guilty of second-degree murder. During sentencing, Judge Patricia Collins cited the defendant's lack of remorse and the premeditated nature of his actions, imposing a 35-year prison sentence. Lila Harper received a 5-year sentence for obstruction of justice and being an accessory after the fact. The judge noted that while she hadn't participated in the murder, her actions in concealing the crime and allowing Eli's family to suffer in uncertainty warranted significant punishment. For Martha Delaney, the convictions brought a measure of closure but couldn't fill the void left by her son's death. In a powerful victim impact statement, she spoke about Eli's dreams of attending college and his plans to study business management. She addressed both defendants directly, describing how their actions had destroyed not just one life but affected an entire community. New protocols were implemented for more thorough initial investigations, particularly when missing persons had active social media presence or unusual digital activity. Silverleaf Park underwent modifications following the trial, with improved lighting and security cameras installed near the lake. The local community established a scholarship in Eli's name at Riverside Heights High School, awarded annually to a student demonstrating excellence in debate, the activity Eli had loved most. Lila Harper ** is currently serving her 5-year sentence at the Springfield Correctional Facility for women in Brookhaven, the state's primary correctional facility for female offenders. After her sentencing in 2021, she was assigned inmate number #W139785 and placed in the medium security wing of the facility. The prison, established in 1916, houses approximately 2,000 female inmates. Harper shares a cell block with other nonviolent offenders. According to prison regulations, she is allowed 2 3-hour visitation periods per month, can make monitored phone calls, and has access to basic educational programs. Due to her cooperation in the case against her husband and her nonviolent offense classification, she was assigned to work in the prison's administrative office. Her daily routine includes work duties from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., with evenings allocated for mandated counseling sessions and educational programs. Under state law, she will be eligible for parole after serving half of her sentence, contingent upon maintaining good behavior and completing required rehabilitation programs. Her earliest possible release date is set for late 2023, though this depends on various factors, including her conduct within the facility. The facility's records indicate that she has had no major disciplinary incidents since her incarceration began. She shares her living space with 3 other inmates in a standard cell block equipped with basic amenities, as per state correctional guidelines. For those who knew Eli Carter, the lake where he died became sacred ground. Though justice had been served, the ripples of that September night continued to affect all those involved, leaving an indelible mark on the Springfield community.